We missed yesterday, and schedules be changing, so we're just adjusting as we go. So if you're tuning in now or later, if you don't know, I'm Alfyn. I'm your local realtor here in Reno and Sparks. And so if you're planning on moving, selling, buying, I'm your girl. Other than that, Monica, thank you for hopping on. Go ahead and explain, or not explain, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Monica Esqueda. I am your local mobile notary as well as financials. So any questions you have in finances, if you want your current policy to be reviewed, if you've been thinking about life insurance but have been on the fence, feel free to reach out. Let's chit chat, and it's a lot easier than you think. So yeah.
Perfect. And so our topic today is costly mistakes family make after purchasing the home. Because most people spend months and months of saving, house hunting, getting approved, and then finally buying that home. But what happens after, closing? So that's what we're going to talk about because I feel like once you're in a home, you kind of forget what's next, right? So Monica, what are your thoughts as far as that? You know, what made you get into helping families with notary and insurance services? And then we'll get into like facts about why talking about that after financing a home is important.
Yeah, so the whole reason started with notary was when we started our whole adoption process. Um, our attorneys or our social worker would call at the very last minute and said, like, hey, we need you to come by the office, pick up these documents. We need them notarized and turned in by tomorrow. Like, literally, it was 4 o'clock, and, everything normally closes by 5. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to get off work, go to the office, pick things up. And I didn't know one single notary, like, that was available to us. And I think it was through Facebook, like through word of mouth. We got connected through this one lady, and just for one signature, she literally charged us $90. And I was just like, but because I needed it done like by tonight to turn it in tomorrow, like, we paid it. But at the same time, I'm like, like, if I was a notary, would I charge that much? No, So that kind of got my wheels turning of like thinking like, like at that time back then, this was almost 7 years ago, like, you know, there wasn't that flexibility of, having mobile notaries around. And so then so I know I ramble, sorry. I was home for 2 years when we first adopted. So I'm like, what could I do to earn like income, but still be productive, but still be at home? And so I looked into becoming a notary, and I kept putting it off, putting it off. And if you also know me, I am an avid lover of like crafting. And so I did. I hustled my crafting business, and I did that, but then it was always in the back of my mind. So continued, and I looked into notarization, and thank God, like I was able to get certified and start my own little business, and it's been, profitable. And through that, I've been signing a lot of like living wills and trusts. And, people ask me like, how do I get that? How do I, get a living will and trust, if they were witnesses or whatnot? And that just kind of like got my wheels turning. But more than anything, also becoming a parent, also got my wheels turning of like, if something happens to us, what happens to her? And, that just kind of led my story into where I am at now. It all started with the whole process of adoption, and, what could I do to have income and be home? But then also me having to go through that personal experience. I'm like, why can't I help others? And, you know, be able to help them out as well. So it all just kind of like slowly gravitated, but here I am. So
I love it. Okay, so what's one thing you think homeowners constantly put off that they really shouldn't?
the living will and trust.
Why is that?
Because I mean, so you're young and you think like you're inevitable, nothing happens, we're good. And you don't think about getting that coverage, that protection for your home or for your family. So, you know, everyone kind of sets it, puts it off and it's like, no, 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 we're good, we're young. But we're never promised tomorrow. Like we don't know what's going to happen when we leave. And nowadays there's so many like, you know, accidents you see that are unexpected, or people are dying at a younger age out of just
Mhm.
nowhere, and you don't have your home covered, you don't have your family covered. And then it's like, what happens to your family when one of you are gone? You know you're left with financial debt. You're left with having your family kind of like go back to normal. And sometimes it just doesn't happen so easily. And so, if you're not covered, like your house, something happens to the both of you, you have a higher risk of your, home going into probate. And it takes, years and thousands of dollars of money to, get that taken care of. And people just don't consider that, I guess, because again, inevitable, you think like, oh, it's not going to happen to me. Like I still have time. But even with life insurance, like you're not guaranteed time. So I always suggest be protected. And I can honestly tell you, I was in the same position. Like it was just Chris and I, so we were just like, oh, we're good. But then once we became parents, it's like this huge light bulb went out on, and it's like, no, what if something happens to us? What happens to them? So definitely something to think about. So
You mentioned probate. What's the difference between probate and trust?
So in a trust, your house is protected from it going into probate. With a will, you just basically are telling your loved ones what your wishes are, but you're not telling the state what your wishes are. So a trust will protect your home from going into probate and it smoothly going over to your beneficiaries versus having to go through the court system and whatnot if you don't have it in a trust.
Absolutely. And what do you think, is the biggest misconception people have?
That it's not going to happen to them. We had uh one of our other sorry brokers had a client that had their house free and cleared for like 30 plus years, and she had divorced but never remarried, but was like in a long-term relationship, and they never had anything in place. And then the lady passed away unexpectedly, and the partner thought like, oh, the house would just go to him, but there was nothing in writing, nothing in. So even though the house and property, everything was paid for, they ended up still losing the house because the state takes over, and it was going to cost them a lot more to have to go through probate and fight all the penalty and the taxes and whatnot. And yeah, so this house that was free and clear ended up going into, I guess, in sense for foreclosure, because of the fees for probate and all that. So
So
yeah.
that's what I would think mistake number two would be, assuming everything automatically goes to family.
Yeah.
So, if knowledge is definitely power. So if you'd like, just contact Monica. Monica will be able to explain to you. Um, so do you have, like, without naming names, any other scenarios besides the free and clear property?
um I did recently do one for a family that I didn't meet through notary, and she didn't really have like a lot going on, like other than like her home. Like she didn't have any other assets. She had an IUL policy and a term, and she strategically planned it that her term policy was going to be part of her beneficiary for the what's it called, for the term policy was going to be her trust. So once she passed, that term policy she had was going to go directly to pay off her home. because she was going to be leaving it, everything to her daughter. So that way her daughter wouldn't have to worry about, payments or anything. The house was going to be paid free and clear once she passed. So her term policy was going to take care of the home. And then her IUL was going to basically go to her daughter, where she would just have that money free and clear. So, there's very different ways of strategic planning that you can have that'll be, beneficial to you, to your family. But I mean, other than that, I don't have like any like scary stories other than the one through our broker. But there's just the benefits of having, the will and trust and, a life insurance policy, and how it can be beneficial to you and your family.
So that's actually mistake number three is no protection for mortgage.
Yeah.
And you kind of cover that. People work definitely so hard to buy a home, but then they kind of forget that part.
Yeah.
So, why do you think families should look into insurance right after buying? And what does life insurance actually help protect? I know you kind of cover that, but
Yeah.
just quick question, quick answer
So
in regards to those
definitely when we sit down with you, we do like a financial analysis to see like, what you owe, what outstanding, bills you have and whatnot. So we want to make sure that we get a policy for you and for your family. And and we revisit that every year as your family changes, your needs change. But we sit down with you and see like, if you were to pass away now, like what number do you need for your family to continue to living the same lifestyle without having to alter anything. So we basically find a policy that fits your needs. That way, if something were to happen to you, that policy can step in and help cover those, I'm trying to think in Spanish, I'm thinking of the word gastos, but like your payments, to make sure that everything's taken care of, if you happen not to be there. So we always sit down and we look at the big picture of what your needs are, and every year we revisit it, to see like, has it changed, it has it adjusted, have you gotten a raise at work, or have your hours gone down at work. So we always want to make sure that your family and that yourself, your home, everything is covered, so that way your family doesn't have to make those super big changes after, the loss of a family member.
So with that, you've actually covered mistake number four, not updating documents. So
Yes.
mistake number four is you mentioned you do it every year. You'll
Mhm.
review it every year. Um, as far as reviewing beneficiaries and stuff like that. When should people update their documents? Like for example, marriages, divorce, kids, buying a house,
New
and so on and
jobs.
so forth.
Yeah.
I think people don't realize life changes should trigger even life updates. So
For
what that
sure.
means is a review and policy too, correct?
Yes. So any major life, changes, you want to have that policy review just to make sure that we're still within the same needs, or if your needs have grown, then we definitely would adjust that policy too. So
Awesome. And then I think mistake number five is not knowing where important documents are.
yeah, I mean, again, I was guilty of that. I'd be like, oh, I just throw them in a drawer. Like there was that one, certain drawer that had kind of housed everything. But now, like, because we have our child, it's like she has her specific folder with like, her documents, and then we have ours with like, important documents. So granted, everything now is digital. You can go online and get a most recent statement, but um which, we do have access to that as well. But it's a smart thing to keep like your most recent statement, filed away, just in case you need a quick access to it. You have that handy. But yeah, kind of getting organized, I guess, would be helpful. Whether it's, a simple accordion folder, or, like a file cabinet that you have, or important documents you keep in a like a secure binder, and maybe throw it, if you have a safe at home, put it in a safe.
What's the strangest place you've heard people have put their documents?
I don't know if it's strangest because it's common in our culture, but people tend to put a lot of their stuff under the mattress.
True.
But I mean, it's kind of normal, So I don't know. But um we've had one, person say like they had those like frames. Like there was basically a hole in their wall and they just like kind of shove stuff behind there, but there was
Oh,
a frame covering it, but
yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, the next part, I just want to kind of do a rapid fire, very quick answers, no explanations, Monica. So,
I'm a rambler.
no, just one first thing on top of your head. So, trust or will?
Trust.
Paper copies or digital?
Both.
Okay. How often should someone review beneficiaries?
Beneficiaries definitely annually. Again, life changes as is, but definitely annually.
Biggest homeowner mistake?
Not putting your house in a trust.
One thing every parent should do this month.
Uh, get a trust and also get your kids a policy because God forbid something happens to your kids, they're also covered as well.
Okay, and most misunderstood thing about notarization.
Notarization. Do I need to be present? Or a lot of the times I get the documents already signed and I'm like, the whole reason I'm coming to you is to notarize your signature.
Hmm.
So sometimes I get people that have already signed the documents and they're like, oh, we just need you to sign. I'm like, no, no. I need to sign after the fact you've signed. So don't fill anything out or don't sign anything, but you can fill stuff out. Just don't sign anything.
Perfect. Okay, well, the goal for today, the reason why we hopped on is to not scare anybody. This is just to provide information how families can help protect the things that they work so hard for. So, if
Definitely.
you feel like this has tugged your heartstrings or you feel like, yeah, I needed to be protected yesterday, go ahead and leave a comment below or just privately message Monica or myself and we'll be happy to talk to you soon.
Yeah. You can always find us. Alfyn hosts an open house and I tag along with her and these conversations come up. People ask about, policies and different, um, trusts, they have questions. So it's always nice that, we collaborate together and, we're able to answer those questions for clients that come in and, just browsing, but also have questions. So
Yeah, and you can also visit us. We're going to be at the Fawn event June 27th from 10 to 5. I'll be leaving a little bit early, but other than that, we'll be there. So if you have any questions, you want to come meet us, go to that one. Okay. All right. Other than that, have a wonderful day. Bye.